do for us to say that the Katiba Kenyans bequeathed themselves in 2010 is actually working for them. To have that discussion with us this evening is Charles Kanjama SC and also LSK President Karibu Sana, as well as Professor Macharia Munene, political historian, Karibu Sana and Asante Sana. Dr. Muthomi Thiankolu, Senior Counsel as well, is here to share his insights on the same, as well as SC Dr. Koki Muli Grigon, electoral governance expert and law lecturer as well. We dive deeper into this conversation. Why? Because 16 years later, one would ask the question, President, is it working? What are the gaps? What must we fix?
First, yes, it is working. It's better than not having had this constitution. We have devolution, we have constitutional commissions, we have an expanded Bill of Rights chapter, we have structures like control of budget that are meant to ensure that utilization of public funds is controlled. So there are things that are working. But there are many gaps. Chapter 6 is a gap, issues of leadership and integrity. Corruption is still rampant. In fact, it is expanding. The chapter on the security services seems not to be working very well with the spate of abductions, goonism. There are clawbacks on the role of constitutional commissions and independent offices. In the judiciary, you know, the Law Society of Kenya recently did a general court boycott to highlight the question of corruption and inefficiency in certain situations. So there are things where the promise of the Constitution has not yet been attained. But it's a journey. We're on the journey. It's better than not to be on this particular journey, but we should be much further than we are right now.
Prof, in terms of where Kenya finds itself today, we go back to the constitution-making process, and you remember the Bomas draft. You look at all that exercise that ended up with Kenya in 2010 deciding this is the document that we agree will govern us moving forward, and even in the posterity. As we look at that history and where we are today as a country, with the constitution being regarded as being the most progressive document, have we achieved the tenets, the promise that Kenyans promulgated?
No, we have not. But we are on the way. But it's good, as the president has said, there's been some progress. At least people are freer than they used to be in their minds. And you can see even the activities way beyond what could have been imagined 16 or 17 years ago, and not to say 25 years ago, it was worse. So there's progress to that effect. Of course, the making of that constitution was not a one-day event. Agitation for it could be well traced back to 1989, 1990. Especially after the Mlolongo fiasco, and then people were wondering where are things going wrong. And there used to be two debates. One is that the constitution we had was very good. It's only that the people implementing it were bad. So they were not following. That's one, yeah? So all you have to do is change the people, and it's okay. And then the other side was saying, no. The problem is the constitution itself, because it allows the president to do whatever he wants. So the two debates, trying to find a compromise in between. In the long run, what you have is a compromise of the two sides. In the 1990s, when, especially after the IPPG patch up and the promise to pick it up, a proper constitutional review. What happened was kind of conflict, struggle. Who is going to steer this thing? The Fungamano team and the Moi Raila team. And they compromised by combining the two of them. Which, when you looked at it, there were a lot of political machinations going on. For one, that document was targeting people rather than being general principle. And it was very clear what was going on. It had one of the provisions was that if you are 70, you should not consider yourself to be presidential material. And you can see clearly what they were doing. They were targeting Kibaki and Nyachai. You know, and you don't do that. And then the other one, they say, you should have a university degree. That was more, because it didn't have one. So it was too blatant that there are some things you do not do. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when people assembled at Bomas to examine what Guy had given them, they met for only one day. And then the whole thing was closed by Moi. I think people were saying things he didn't like. And the people on the other side, the opposition said, as soon as we win, because we are going to win, we shall revive Bomas. And they won. Now, the game changed. It became now a contest. Who controls Bomas? And the Guy document was forgotten. As these two, one on the Kibaki side and the Raila side. Bomas turned out to be a battleground. And eventually they came up with some document which reduced the powers of the president, but not as much as some people wanted. And eventually that's what went to the referendum in 2005. And it was not just a Kenyan affair, it was an international affair. Because we had ambassadors and high commissioners from various places saying what they want, how people should vote.
Yes.
The outcome of that vote was that the North side won. And there is doubt whether anybody wanted it in the first place. The expectation, which was said very openly, if the North side wins, President Kibaki should stop being president, get the hell out of the way, because the bananas had lost. And the various high commissioners and ambassadors said that. Guy himself said that. And you say, wait a minute, but people are voting about whether they want a new document or not. Not about it. And that's the way Kibaki interpreted it. It's a choice. Do you want this new thing or not? And people said they don't want it. The disappointment with Kibaki is that he did not get out of office. Instead, he reminded Kenya that Kenya still had a constitution. All they did is to reject a new draft. So life goes on. That in itself started a 2-year campaign, which culminated in the fiasco of 2007, with all the funny things that happened. As a result of that, we had a problem, and the donors, we call them what? Development partners. They came in and they brought in someone called Kofi Annan, said, now he's your mediator, they are mediator. And he did come up with some recommendations. One, that there should be investigations. Exactly what happened, so that the violence.
Yes.
That's one. The other one is to investigate what happened at KICC.
Yes.
Because the excuse for violence in some areas was that something happened at KICC. So it should be investigated. That was the Krieger Commission. They did the investigation, came up with whatever it is. And there was a debate as whether some people should go to Hague. And they were, some people were saying, let's go to Hague, don't be vague. And as it turned out, Kofi Annan gave an envelope to Ocampo, who came and said he was going to do 3 things. He was going to indict equal numbers of both PNU and ODM. Yeah. 2, he was going to indict the most responsible people. 3, he was going to make Kenya an example to the rest of the world. That's what he said.
Yes.
He did no investigation. Later on, he admitted, yeah, there was some problem. Mm-hmm. So he took some reports from people and used them. When he did that, it appeared, and now this one, now politics comes into the picture again, as if the aim of the indictments was to remove some people, from the equation of the next election. And so it indicted Uhuru and Ruto. Ruto, ODM, Uhuru was not PNU. He was still KANU.
Yeah.
So now, that one, the people turned that and said, no, this is, so it became a political issue.
Okay.
The donors were very noisy, saying which way they want Kenya to vote. Mm-hmm. So the reaction was, we don't want you. And that became something else.
Yeah. S.C. Thiankolu, when you look at the Constitution, just based off the history that we've been taken through by the Prof, looks as if the struggle and the clamor towards a new Constitution is something that Kenya really wanted, you know. But then one asks the question, at the time, was the Constitution 2010 a compromise because we had the 2007 post-election violence, and even then the document itself given to individuals who did not trust in it, but it was just a compromise because we found ourselves in a very hot soup, if one would say.
It is, of course, all constitutions are compromises, because in every country you find there are various vested interests in various stratas of the society of that country. So there is no constitution anywhere in the world that you can say reflects absolute universal consensus of the population of that country. But for me, I think we might also be having the wrong discussion.
Yes.
And there are a number of false claims that have been repeated about this constitution so many times that I think we should also begin to debunk them. One of the claims that is not entirely true is that ours is the best constitution in the world. Because for you to arrive at that claim, then you would have to assume that there is good synchrony between the Constitution and the values espoused by the vast majority of the population of that country. And when I read our Constitution, the many nice-sounding, academically incontestable things that drive this claim that it is the best constitution in the world, then I try to contrast it with the type of people we are. Do we actually believe in 99% of the things? If we were led to be our own selves without the constraint of this, does the typical, ordinary, random Kenyan on the streets, does he actually hate corruption? Does he actually hate negative ethnicity? Does he actually believe in devolution? Does he actually believe in human rights, democracy, and egalitarian society? And to me, then the answer is no. There is no person who has really walked our streets or our villages who can say this constitution, the nice-sounding rhetoric in it, is a good reflection of the type of people we are. And therefore, perhaps the question should be, in all these 16 years, what efforts have we made to become the type of people, the type of society that this constitution speaks to? The second reason why that claim is false, and I don't know whether Prof will forgive me for saying this, the truth, the undeniable truth is that the text of our constitution is largely a copy and paste job from various aspects of constitutions from elsewhere in the world, especially South Africa, some elements from Germany and other countries. And then to that extent, then you can say our constitution is like a tree picked from one climatic region, let's say the polar regions of our planet, and brought here to the tropics. Mm-hmm. So you transplant something from a foreign land to a completely different climate, and you expect it to thrive. I mean, some plants only thrive in the Arctic, others in the Antarctica, others in the tropics, and whatnot. So there is a way, in short, our constitution is very alien to the type of people we are.
I mean, at that point then, I see, Koki, we ask the question then, if we look at this alien constitution that does exist, yet that is what Kenyans chose upon themselves. And moving forward, then it is the implementation of these alien documents. So at the point of promulgation, what did Kenyans go to that referendum knowing exactly what they wanted, or was this just another political gimmick and euphoria that encapsulated people and decided because there was the previous referendum that failed, now because it is being pushed by a political agenda behind it, then voila, Kenya Constitution 2010, here we are.
Dennis, first let me thank you for inviting us to discuss and celebrate the Constitution. I would, actually I want to look at it from a different perspective. I don't actually believe that, with respect to my learned friend, senior counsel here, that this is an alien document. Of course, the Constitution is a negotiated document, and it went through the process of negotiations and Bomas to come out, with what we have. And therefore, but remember, before Bomas and before 2002 elections, there was a process that was led by Professor Yash Gai of collecting views throughout the country. And these views were collated and distilled in one document that was the basis of the discussions and the National Constitutional Conference at Bomas. During this process, of course, there were, because of the nature of the people who were invited to participate, 1/3 was the councillors, 1/3 members of parliament, and the members of the executive and other bodies, and there were observers and civil society, academia, but there were also very few key people or key institutions that were left out in the process of negotiating this document. Nevertheless, there was a lot of input from different perspectives, and we got a negotiated document that has a lot of content. Some of it is wonderful document. I don't say our constitution is the best in the world, but I do say is one of the most progressive one. I say this because I started working in the early 90s, and I was involved in the process of democratization and the quest for this Katiba and many other false starts. And I can tell you, this constitution has fundamentally transformed our society, and it has given us a lot to work with. It's just, I believe that people say, I mean, there was even the level of civic education, the level of awareness, and the level of people's embracing their human rights and demanding for them. It is quite high. This is something that I didn't grow up with, or I didn't work with, and therefore it has truly transformed this country. So there are many good things, and it's not just an issue of implementation. Of course, we would like to see a lot of, in terms of implementation and achieving the goals. But look at the preamble, look at Article 10, the national values, all these things are things that actually we believe in. It's just that one of the things I would say, there is some problem of not a great problem is in implementation, and also I don't want to use this word. When you
Just use it.
no, it is not a good word to use on
She's an ambassador.
It just says that this constitution has been entrusted to people who have no respect for the rule of law, and they don't care about the values and the principles of the constitution.
Yeah. I wanted to listen to what our President William Ruto had to say today, especially when it comes to the celebration of 16 days of Katiba 16 years of Katiba 2010. Let's listen.
Judicial independence is non-negotiable. Courts must remain free to interpret the Constitution, protect rights, and invalidate unlawful action. Equally, executive, legislative, and judicial authority all derive legitimacy from the people and must be exercised in their service. Where a government acts unlawfully, it must obey the courts and correct its course. Where lawful policy choices fall within the constitutional authority of elected institutions, that democratic space must also be respected.
Very well, that is His Excellency President William Ruto on the celebration today as Kenya marks 16 years of the Katiba. S.C. Kanjama, the President says that court orders must be respected. What do you have to say, especially when it comes to the government respecting court orders?
The first thing I must say is anytime you listen to our leadership, political leadership speaking about the Constitution and about the corruption, you go, wow, these are very profound remarks. I wish all Kenyans, beginning with our leaders, would comply with these remarks. So I have come to the conclusion that our problem is not the aspiration or the beliefs, but rather putting into practice what we say. And I think it's already a big positive that we agree on what we should do. We should fight corruption, we should obey court orders. I think that's a very good plus. So what we are now lacking is walking the talk. And that is why for us, as the Law Society of Kenya, we've started talking about accountability. Because if we have a consensus about what we should do, how the institutions should behave with each other when we are speaking in public, why is it that in specific instances that consensus is failing? So what the President said is true, that the executive, the legislature, the other levels of government like county government, they have to obey court orders. We have many court orders that are not being obeyed. There's a culture of impunity where many litigants or people go to court extremely frustrated. After being frustrated by the hassle they go through to get the court order, they are doubly frustrated by the double hassle they go through to try to get the court orders enforced. That's a big challenge. And one of the perpetrators of impunity is the executive arm of government, various officers. And even in the discussion that was taking place at Katiba at 16, one of the moderators, journalists, asked the President about the cabinet, where there is a court order that it is not yet constitutional based on the two-thirds gender principle. Of course, the President has a bit of time, 1.5 months to comply based on the court order. But that's what you see, that there is an aspiration or a desire to comply. But I must also say, speaking as a lawyer who has led advocates in a one-day general boycott against the court, that there are instances where the court itself has given court orders that are not aligned with the constitutional values. And for us, we've identified the case of court orders that are issued to stop investigation or to stop proceedings at Ethics Anti-Corruption Commission or Judicial Service Commission. So it's not that the judiciary is on one side as the holy organ and all the other organs are weak and failing. And all the organs have gaps that they need to address. And to the extent that they address them, we will applaud them. To the extent that they consistently fail after explaining what they need to do, we will condemn them.
I see you recently led the boycott by lawyers in the country, and that was because of issues that there are against several judicial officers. And the boycott was across the country, and many Kenyans are asking, how then is that when we have the constitution that has put in place JSC to investigate judicial officers, that body would be stopped by a court? That is, for that process not to happen. Many are saying the judiciary is using its friends to stop accountability. Would Kenyans be right?
Yes, I think Kenyans would be very right, and we are very concerned about it. Some of the most, in our view, concerning cases are where even investigations going on by the Ethics Anti-Corruption Commission, the constitutional body charged with the fight against corruption, are stopped by the courts in relation to a judge or a judicial officer. They are not stopping you from prosecuting them in court. They are saying, don't even investigate. That is appalling, and that has happened in our court. So we are saying that our courts themselves are susceptible in certain cases. And when this happens, we always say, because we are litigants, we go to the court because we believe a lot in the courts as lawyers. We say that if you find a decision of a court is not in your favor, apply to set it aside or seek to appeal. But in some of these cases, you try to appeal, the appeal is dragged in the courts. You find a lot of procedural obstacles. It's impossible to make progress. So what we are saying is that even the judiciary, which should be the last hope for Kenyans, because that is the constitutional architecture, when the executive is not working well, parliament oversights the executive. When parliament or the executive have failed, you go to the judiciary. And so the judiciary is like the last hope, is meant to be the last hope, but the judiciary itself has shortcomings as well. In many cases, they have proved to be a great aid to Kenyans. In some cases, they have failed. So the call to full, faithful and firm implementation of the Constitution is to all the organs of government in the cases where they have failed, and this includes the judiciary. Fortunately, our judiciary for the last 16 years is fairly stronger and more independent than the judiciary before 2010. And those of us who have studied the history of the judiciary, we know the low point of Kenya's judiciary was 1987-88, when even security of tenure of judges was removed, when you had some judges who said you cannot even seek to enforce fundamental rights and freedoms because there are no procedural guidelines. So the judiciary has come of age. But there is a temptation or a danger of insisting so much on independence that independence becomes a shield against accountability.
I will ask you the last question because I know you're about to leave because you have to catch a flight. Yes. But that notwithstanding then, when we talk about the independence of the judiciary, one asks the question, we'll go back to 2017 after the election was nullified by the judiciary. And there's a statement that followed, we shall revisit. And we shall revisit, one would say, piggyback, or rather was looking at an attack at the judiciary because then funding to the judiciary has gone down. And all these in one way or the other, if you just pause and look at it, pundits, many have said that this was meant at interfering with the independence of the judiciary because of decisions it has made. Would Kenyans be right to say that as well in one way or the other, when funding does not get to the judiciary as expected, then there is a problem?
It's good to have context on both sides. On the government side, as the president stated today during the Katiba 16 celebration or commemoration, the funding to the judiciary in the last 3 years has increased from 18 billion to 30 billion
Yes.
shillings. So there has been a significant increase. The judiciary has been able to hire about 100 judges and magistrates, about 100 magistrates over the last few years. When current president came into office, there were some judges who had not been sworn into the Court of Appeal because the former president had declined to do it. And the current president has been very quick in appointing the judges after JSC does its job. So on one side, there have been steps of trying to strengthen the judiciary. And they have been expanding high courts in several counties, more judges and magistrates. They are improving the performance management system. On the other side, we notice attempts also to interfere with the judiciary. The JSC, who's in the JSC, are they government-leaning or otherwise? Who are the judges who sometimes make decisions in the Constitutional Court that seem to be consistently against the government, and then they are transferred prematurely from one station to another. So there are also warning indicators that there is a bit of pulling back from the robustly independent judiciary. And I've also said that when some judges decide to guard their own from scrutiny, that is also one of the worrying signs. So the truth is that revisiting can be done publicly or insidiously, secretly, quietly. But so in public, it is easy and comfortable to say we want a strong, independent judiciary. In public is where, in private is where you see a lot of frustration when judges issue decisions that are adverse to the desires of the executive to raise revenue or taxes. There is always a bit of revisiting when they're asking for funds. They're told, but you're the ones who stopped us from getting money. Why are you asking us for extra funds? So then it starts creating a kind of like executive-centric, executive-minded judiciary among some of the judges who are deciding some of these cases. We've also had the frustration, before I finish, of some lawyers who say that when there's progressive judicial decisions in the High Court, the Court of Appeal then comes to reverse them. Or when they are progressive in the High Court and the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court is where progressive jurisprudence goes to die. This is what people are saying. And they say that the Supreme Court is like the court that considers many dimensions, judicial, political, cultural, historical. So at the end of the day, politics starts seeping in. And Kenyans, especially lawyers, become a bit frustrated by what is happening. So we are saying that the judiciary should remain firm and strong and consistent in pursuing constitutional values and implementation of the Constitution.
S. Charles Kanjama is the president of LSK. Will be leaving us because he has some other pressing matters to attend to. Asante sana for making time. And I come to you, Prof, now. Prof, when you look at the judiciary today, the point of last resort for Kenyans, where Kenyans go to when all else have failed, right? And when you look at history and where we are today, how would you rate the performance of the judiciary?
There are different levels. To some extent, we have a vibrant judiciary, better. Or let's say we have judges who are real judges. And then we have other judges, you have a question mark. But we have seen judges take positions of principle in advancing justice. And sometimes good lawyers here can say, you make a distinction between the law and justice. Because sometimes something can be legal and very unjust. And when that happens, a good judge is the one who goes for the justice as opposed to the legal technicalities. And so in that regard, I think we have a better judiciary than we used to some time ago. When judges will say that they do not operate in a political vacuum. So and then you know what that means, they'll lock you up. The evidence notwithstanding. So we have moved away from that. And the Constitution tried its best to ensure that the judges would be as independent as they possibly can be. Unfortunately, the people entrusted to implement the Constitution have a problem. Because some of them don't believe in it. And if they don't believe in it, they think it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
And therefore, they do everything and anything to frustrate it.
Frustrated. Essie, one asks the question then. A progressive constitution as described by Essie Koki, yet it's a document that is entrusted to individuals who perhaps do not believe in it. If you, for example, look at the role of Parliament when it comes to the implementation and giving the Constitution the meat it deserves, right? That has been lacking. How has that denied Kenyans from realizing the dreams and aspirations as the Constitution emancipates?
I'm very happy you asked that question because it takes us where I began. You know, one of the mistakes we make in this country is to assume you can use good laws that are good on paper, to convert a bad society to a good society. Speaking for myself, I don't subscribe to this idea that Kenyans, generally speaking, are such a virtuous society. The problem is the people we have entrusted, if in the case of the judiciary with interpreting the Constitution, in the case of the executive implementing it, or in the case of Parliament oversight. It's not like all these fellows drove from another planet, like we adopted our Constitution for ourselves and they were not here. Then some deities dropped them here and placed them in authority over us. The truth is, our very dysfunctional, and if you ask me, unpatriotic parliamentarians, they didn't come from another planet. Kenyans voted for them.
Yes.
If you ask me, all the complaints we make about the executive, it's not like the people who are in the executive, again, are from an alien society. They are part and parcel of our society. And therefore, for me, I don't believe the claim that the Katiba is good. Our real problem is that it has been entrusted with the wrong guys. The truth is that every country in the world has its fair share of bad guys. And the reasons constitutions exist anyway in any country is to balance that tension between the interest of the bad guys in positions of privilege and the masses. So, and I think that's why Prof, one of the philosophers, told us then the prize is eternal vigilance. So for me, I think Kenyans have abdicated their role of vigilance. They assume having adopted a very good constitution, they can now take the back seat and rely on judges to interpret it, rely on the president and his cabinet, rely on parliament and its leadership. It doesn't work like that. It's a perpetual struggle of vigilance, and it's also a perpetual project of trying to become good citizens at the individual and the collective level.
Yeah. Essie Koki, when we look at the Constitution, as Essie Muthomi had said, Kenyans have looked at the Constitution as the greatest document there is. We the people. It became very famous as we're talking about Finance Bill 2024. We the people shall, not may. You know, that is what it is we talk about. But are we as Kenyans, leave alone those with the responsibility of, say, coming up with policy, that would Parliament, executive, judiciary, but are Kenyans as a whole consumers of the Constitution as is? Or have we abdicated our role of implementing the same Constitution as everybody else and said, we have a good Katiba, let Parliament do its bit, let executive do its bit, let judiciary do its bit?
Thank you very much, Dennis. Even though we say that Kenya's constitution is progressive. It is indeed true, it is a progressive document, but it is not the elixir of life or the philosopher's stone that you put a little bit of it into our bad things and then it turns into gold.
Yeah.
But of course, the Constitution And this I don't understand, because we have had a lot of civic education. I had the fortune of having gone through at least almost all of the presidents of Kenya since independence, although of course I was very young during Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. But I went to school and went to university during Moi's time, graduated during Moi's time, and started working and worked for a few years during Moi's time. So I've seen Moi, I've seen Kibaki, I've seen Uhuru, and I've seen Ruto. And I can tell you that there was a time, I think during Kibaki's time, that the Kenyan society was adjudged as the most optimistic society. And therefore, that gives me hope to know that the leadership that we select among us, we are not all bad. I just want to encourage my brother. And he sounds a little optimistic, pessimistic, but be optimistic, because when I compare the struggle of this democratization, the return to multipartyism in 1992, and also all those negotiated little amendments that were happening. Professor was talking about since 1992, before the election, then the IPPG in 97, then just before the Bomas was supposed to start in 2002, Moi disbanded Parliament, which was supposed to be 1/3 of the delegates. But all that, there was hope, there was disappointment, but we are not all the same. For me, I see tremendous progress, because I lived through those days where you look behind you and you are always worried that the person, even your own relative, may be an informer, maybe somebody who might betray you. And so, exactly. And so now we have a situation where the civil society robustly, and you know, there's a saying that eternal vigilance, something that requires eternal vigilance. It is indeed true. After all this struggle, we got this Katiba, everybody sort of retired. In fact, I had, personally speaking from my own experience, after this constitution, I was so happy that I know that there is a piece of me that is written there that I protect. The constitution is actually very clear. All of us have the obligation to defend the constitution of Kenya, not just the leadership that we have. And a lot of times we keep on ceding space for our leaders, and we have sort of relaxed. And I remember in 2024, at the height of the 2024 and 2025, as the height of the Gen Z revolution, there were a lot of my friends and my daughter's friends, my daughters were not here at the time, but they were all arrested. And I said, it is not possible. So the parents were calling me, because of course, being an activist is always an activist. So I was on my way to Central Police, and I called one of the people that we used to network with and coordinate, and they told me, Mama, rudi nyumbani. We will just give us the names and the ID numbers. We will get them out. What I'm trying to say is that the Constitution, as much as we don't see too much of progress, there's a lot of traction. There were a lot of young lawyers and not so young lawyers who told me, listen, you have done your bit. Let us take out those kids out of, you know, the police custody and so on. So citizens have taken their constitution, and you see people going with the flag of Kenya. It's a symbol of the constitution and everything else. Inside the constitution, of course, there are those, you know, those responsibilities that go to the three organs of the state. And I can tell you, the weakest link, if you compare the three, judiciary, executive, and parliament, the weakest link, I would say, is actually Parliament, followed by the executive. Parliament, why? If you go to the New Kenya Law website, for example, you will find tens and tens of provisions of legislation and even whole legislations that have been declared unconstitutional, with a remit that the Parliament should amend those or make new laws and something. Nothing happens. If you go to Schedule, is it Schedule 3? That has all this, the list, Schedule 5 with the timetable of all the laws that were supposed to be enacted following the promulgation of the Constitution on 27. There are some that have not been done, and then, you know, they have not been adopted, and there's no excuse. Some laws like the finance, the Campaign Financing Act has recently been breathed life by IEBC that has now prepared the regulations. You know, it was enacted 2 elections away, and they keep on pushing it forward, saying that it doesn't have regulations, it doesn't have all this. So I'm looking very keenly to see what is going to happen with that enactment. And lastly, about the judiciary. You see, judiciary has a lot of independence in the Constitution. Sometimes people say, depending on how people interpret their independence, their operational independence, their institutional independence, and their even personal independence as they work. Some of the judges, I found some of the judgments quite interesting. For example, in the case of lawyers always, in the case of Wambui and 10 others, the Speaker of National Assembly, a 2022 case, they said that a member of Parliament does not require a degree. If you go to Article 137, the qualification of the President says that it is tied to the qualification of a member of Parliament in Article 99, which means a President now does not need to have a degree. In the case of the County Assembly and 2 others, or is it 6 others, also at 22, and the County Assembly, Counties Forum, governors and so on. They went to court, this forum went to court to say that MCS should not be allowed to, should not be required to have a degree. And if you go to Article 180, it also says that the qualification of the governor is tied to an MCA. So in Kenya today, and I can tell you for sure, I was in Bomas, there was no way that we envisaged that our leadership, people who are managing billions and billions of shillings, managing administration, would be without education. And now anyone can actually, you don't need to go to school. What are we saying? And this is,
to get a junior job, you need a degree.
And yet, when you are the head of state or our governor, you know, having to oversee billions of Kenyan shillings in public funds and managing public trust, you don't need to have any education. And surprisingly, and not to, you know, personalize this, all this, these judgments were by the same judge. And so you ask, is that an interpretation that is breathing life to the Constitution, or it is an interpretation, an application that is sniffing life out of the Constitution? You understand?
Yeah, and Prof, as we just go through what the Constitution gave us, there is what many say is the spirit of the Constitution and constitutionalism as well. And when you talk about these then, have you realized the spirit of the Constitution, and we as a people in the country, in Kenya, are we constitutional, or have we abdicated our role? Because why do I say that? Today, if you want to have people that are going for elected position, who gives them that mandate? Who donates the power to them? It's the people. Do they equally, like now, SC Muthobi would say then, the people as well have to be put at the center of it all and be asked the difficult questions. Who are you putting in office?
Yeah, I mean, that also requires that people be properly informed. We've been talking about values listed down there and all those things, but people don't know those values. And part of the reason they do not know those values is because our education system does not allow them to know those values. Okay? So we have people going from baby school to the university without knowing Kenya. Someone gets a degree from the university and does not know Kenya. And yet that's the same person who was going to be put in charge of things. And when asked, they get lost. We have CSS who don't know the national values, the national interests. They are there. And you ask, how come that happens? We've been talking about the MPs being a disappointment. In part because the kind of education they got did not allow them to know these things. So we need an education overhaul. Although some people don't like hearing that because they have some other agenda. As long as the people in general, even if Kibaki comes and says, watoto wasome, the question is, what are they somaring? So that they grow knowing these things. And when they grow knowing these things, when something goes wrong, they are fast to act. Say, that one is wrong. I think we are encouraged by the Gen Zs 2 years ago. It was very good and very thrilling. And you can see they have the spirit of the Constitution there. Say, this is it. Some argument has been made. In part, those are Kibaki children.
Yeah.
The ones who are made
children.
to Soma. And you can see the reaction to that exposure. So if every person was exposed that way, then some of the things we are complaining about will be a thing of the past. Because everybody knows or would know the obligation he or she has towards defending or standing up for that constitution. Today, most of us do not know that constitution. So we expect our lawyers to do the talking. Some would say, well, something is wrong here and there. But the mass ignorance is the issue. And the best way to deal with it is through the education system so that people grow knowing this is not good, this is good, this is not in the interest of the country or my area, this is good, or whatever it is. And then even the thing of the corruption will be something of the past. Very unfortunately, if I may say so, Kenya has had people to implement the constitution who are actually irresponsible. And therefore they have no sense, they don't believe in it, they don't want it in the first place. Therefore they do not feel the obligation to
implement it.
To do it. And when they do that, others say, kama mkubwa amefanya, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, see, I want to look at, there's a statement that you said when, the first time during your introduction, that Parliament enjoys more power than even executive. Why would that be? Because when you look at even the budget making process, you look at even when the president himself wants a supplementary budget, everything else comes through Parliament. And when you talk about implementation of the Constitution, some of the powers or legislation that would then give more life into the Constitution again goes back to Parliament, where if we have a Parliament that is not well read, if we have a Parliament that does not believe in giving more power in this Constitution, then perhaps this Constitution will never be implemented to its fullness, or rather in the pace expected by the Mwananchi. So from where it is we sit today, Katiba at 16, when we get, say, to Katiba, because now we're going to 2060, but let's put it at Katiba at 2030, what must we do for us to say we are seeing proper or forward-thinking implementation of Katiba with the assistance of Parliament?
One of the things we must do, when you're 16, you're at the stage in life where we're able to assess whether the trajectory you're taking, you will achieve your full potential, or you will just be another riffraff, or another never-do-well type of person. Because it is the decisions you make around and the choices you make in your teenage that determine the quality of life you live in your adulthood, in your midlife, and even in your last days. In short, the mistakes you make at 16 live with you for the remainder of your life. And therefore, to me, then the question is, have we audited our lives like a 16-year-old should audit their childhood, their teenage, and the choices they're making and those they're about to make, and therefore have the assurance I'm on the right path, or I'm already a delinquent. At that age also they are called delinquents, juvenile delinquents and whatnot. My fear is we have not even bothered as a nation to do an audit now that we are at 16 and ask ourselves, we adopted this constitution with these assumptions. How have these assumptions panned out? Let me give you a few wild examples. We assumed, for instance, if we made the presidential election 50% plus one vote, we will correct our ethnic mobilization approach to politics. 2013 showed us it is possible to mobilize just 2 tribes and leave out the others, and somehow scrape through the 50 plus one. Nobody has even questioned then, what about the assumption that informed this rule? We assumed that if we had devolution, 47 counties, services will come closer to the people, there will be better accountability, certain functions and of the state will be better performed at that level. Have we audited all those things in Schedule 4 of our Constitution, for instance, that we devolved? Are we now better off or worse off than we were, for instance, with health? Are we better off or worse off than we were with, say, pre-primary education? Are we better off or worse off than we were with agricultural extension services? Nobody is having that conversation. Let me give you another random example. We assumed if we establish a Supreme Court, we give judges all these protections and whatnot, wow, we will have a functional judiciary. And yet, as we speak today, lawyers are protesting. As we speak today, no one has had even the discussion. Is the case backlog now worse off or better off? Are we still having corruption in the judiciary? Is the incidence higher or worse? Assumptions we made, for instance, that we never envisioned, for instance, judges would conspire when we were establishing the Judicial Service Commission and gave judges and magistrates 5 slots out of 11. And we never anticipated they would conspire, because they are such a sizable constituency in that body, to have this now controversial thing they call decision of independence, where you're told, no, you can't discipline a judge or a magistrate because they made a preposterous decision. The other day I was asking the Chief Justice, if we can't hold judges accountable for the quality of decisions they make, Prof, what else do judges do so that we can hold them accountable for it, if we can't hold them accountable for the only thing for which they exist? Then you're told, no, the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, some jurisprudence says, you can't do this and you can't do this. We assumed if we form a police service commission, the things that used to happen in Nyati House and Nyayo torture chambers and whatnot will be a thing of the past.
The past, yes.
Now that we have a National Police Service Commission, an Inspector General and whatnot, are we still having the tortures? Are we still having the abductions? Are we still having, police
extrajudicial killings,
which are murders? Part of the quarrel I have with you people of the media is how you give nice sounding names for very terrible things. What our police do is actually murder. It's just killings. then you guys call it police brutality, you call it extrajudicial or something that instead of calling it by its proper. But the point is, have we audited, now that we're at 16, what was the initial assumptions that informed this document, and how these assumptions are panned out in practiced politics? Because unfortunately, in every country, not just Kenya, there's always that gap between the political rhetoric, you know, what the Chief Justice tells you, what your MP tells you, what your president tells you, and there is the real politics of who is managing the state, who is getting more benefit from the state than the other, and that's the part no one, of course, will tell you.
I mean, Koki, sorry. As we look at the questions that have been raised by Wakili, Senior Counsel there, are we really auditing the assumptions that we have had? Because we talk about security of the country. Kenyans gave independence to the police through the Inspector General of Police. But then again, you look at statements that are being made by individuals in that pecking order. The President says shoot from the leg. The Cabinet Secretary says shoot. Member of Parliament says shoot to kill. I will represent you in court. At that particular point, when we look at the promise of the Constitution and the assumptions that we had, are those conversations even being had today?
Dennis, what I would say, I can, you know, it's a very sad state of affairs that you have a document with all these rights and a generation of citizens of this country who believe in this document and can actually hold it profoundly to have it implemented. And yet the people that are entrusted with safeguarding, defending, and securing it, the people with the highest responsibility are the people that are sabotaging the same document. For me, the Constitution is not an adult, and it's almost, you know, reaching the final teenage years. So the parents of this Constitution, some of them have been insisting on trying to amend it. And for me, my first question I ask is, what is the purpose of a constitution in a country?
Yes.
And can we exist and survive without the Constitution? Can we just say, obviously, okay, let's throw it under, you know, under the table and let's see how we govern ourselves? And you realize that the Constitution is the wholesome of us, of everything, the way we are structured as a country. It is the governance structures, everything. It is more than a strategic plan of a country. It is the thing that makes us who we are. And therefore, when we are looking at this Constitution at 16, I would say, and we keep on saying, there's no rush to change this Constitution because there is no reason to change it. And I can say this, and certainly not in an election year, there's no reason to amend this Constitution because all the efforts that we have had, we have seen 4 of them, I think there have been 4, with all these attempts, but the biggest one has been the BBI attempt. All of them are geared towards the governance structure and also towards targeting individuals. We are not thinking of this document in, how do you say, posterity. And one of the things that I don't think that we need to audit the Constitution. The Constitution is the young, quickly growing child that we are about to send to university, and as parents we say, whew, our sons and daughters are going to be somebody else's problem. But we cannot do that. For me, I say, and it's something Professor Munene said earlier, that when a constitution is given to people who opposed it, they don't see the value of the document. How can you, as a leader, stand in public? You are the spiritual guardian or the legal guardian, the constitutional guardian of the Constitution. You are carrying it in your hands. And you say, do you know I can just drop it and you know it's made of crystal? And you threaten to drop it. I mean, when you say, shoot people on the legs, what are you saying? Yeah. And so for me, I think what we need to audit is the people who are implementing the Constitution, who are supposed to implement the Constitution. The Constitution is the same, it is exactly the same document we had on 27th, 2010, August, when it was promulgated by the late Kibaki. He bequeathed us this Constitution. It hasn't changed, it's the same. But we are talking about as if it is the one that has a problem. The Constitution has no problem, absolutely. It's still as progressive as it was. It has helped us in many ways, of course, and but there are so many gaps that we have created. There are so many problems that we have created, and we are tying ourselves in ropes and trying to say, oh, the Constitution, this, the Constitution, that. If only we do what we say we do. I mean, look at a number of provisions in the Constitution. The Gen Z revolution showed us that indeed the Constitution, we are the sovereign, as in Article 1. And the sovereign power, that sovereignty of the people, that sovereign power is exercised either directly or indirectly. And when we exercise it indirectly, we bequeath it to these people who manage our public affairs. And we can take that power back. And there is even this Article 104, the right of recalling your members of Parliament, which, as I said, Parliament is the weakest link because it has actually undermined the implementation of the Constitution through either bad legislation, and we have lots of them, or refusing to legislate, or just refusing to play their oversight role. Because if we don't, and also the judiciary sometimes it is weak in terms of judicial review. It is the one that has to look at the actions of the public, the public officers, and say it is not possible that you can have a head of state saying you shoot citizens on their legs, and a minister in charge of security with the primary responsibility to protect, saying that you can be shot and I can defend you. I mean, somebody, we are all sort of, the level of impunity is mind-boggling to the extent that you are, where do you start? Like if I have to go to court to get judicial review over these decisions by state officers, from the president all the way, I would be there every day. Before even I reach to court with this application, another one is coming. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this country? Something is really fundamentally wrong. And we need to take up our responsibilities as citizens. And that's why I'm saying, Dennis, everybody who is over 18 years of age and eligible to vote, go out, get your IDs, get your vote, especially Gen Zs and everybody else. Come out and vote and say, this is how you cleanse the society. And I'm thinking that all these people, we need to clean up this country so that we actually reinvent ourselves using our social contract, which is the Constitution that we have. Our Constitution is as good as it was on 27th August 2010.
All right. Prof, some of the wins this Constitution gave Kenya was devolving power, taking it to the counties. 47 counties, 47 centers of power together with the national government. And when you talk about that, two sides to it. Wananchi are now closer to to power, wananchi can feel development coming to them. On the other hand, corruption has as well been devolved. The clamor towards ensuring that devolution is a reality in the country, why was that an important or integral part of the Constitution 2010? And as we sit today, have Kenyans benefited from the fruits of devolution?
Yes, Kenyans have benefited from the fruits of devolution. The spirit of devolution was to empower people to do their own things at the level that they are at, and not to wait for everything to come from Nairobi, which is a good city, but everything should not be coming from Nairobi. And if people are made to feel empowered, then they will grow their counties exponentially. And initially, of course, the counties depend on the national government for some money, which has been misused. But ideally, the development that takes place at the county level will enrich the county, and with time, in theory, the counties will be sending money to the national government instead of getting money from the what? That has not happened. One, because the people we elected, few of them are honest people. As soon as you are made governors or whatever it is, the first thing they demanded is to be called their excellencies.
Excellencies, yes, yes.
That was the first thing they did, before they could do anything. And then
the flag.
And then flag, and then they beat motorcades, and then take the money for the counties to build palaces.
Yes.
Things like that. That's not to say that all governors were bad. No. Some governors have done very well, extremely well. And they become examples for others. So the others are being asked, how can you not behave like so-and-so? And so in that sense, the further people are asking questions of their governments at the local level, instead of blaming somebody in Nairobi, it's a good thing. And I think a few governors have been taken to court for bad behavior. Maybe a few more.
Some have been impeached.
Some have been impeached and they escaped it. Which then raises the funny question about impeachment. Because there was a governor who was impeached a few times and he survived.
Governor Mombasa, yes.
Yes, and he kept on which has created a problem for Gachagua. Because if it happened to Mombasa, well, what's wrong? The spirit of the Constitution has not been honored. The Constitution, we can say, is simply an agreement.
Okay.
A general agreement among the people in a place. This is the way we want to run our affairs. And these are the rules, the general rules. And everybody is supposed to be bound by them. And anyone who gets to office is committed to abide by what? Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. It's not so much the written big document. It's that general agreement as to how we should run affairs. And if we are not running them up properly, then there's something wrong. And that turns out to be the case. The counties that we created, maybe some of them are too small to function. Some people are saying maybe we should combine them to make them viable.
Yeah.
But ideally, each of them has an opportunity to make progress in the place, to generate resources and funds, so that they have become so rich, they don't need Nairobi.
Yeah.
Instead, Nairobi should be hoping, but that doesn't happen. So devolution has worked very well. Could work better.
Could work better.
And when there is effort to water it down, and watering down is not just coming from the national government, it's coming from within. Because when the governor and the MCAs steal everything, then the people there become disillusioned.
Yeah.
And they start saying, why don't we get the national government back? Like the hospitals.
The hospitals, yes.
Some people are saying it's better when the national government was running the what?
Yes.
The hospitals. In theory, the medicine was there. The attendants were there. Now you have counties running hospitals and they have no clue as to what they are doing.
Yeah. And Simu Thomi, when you look at devolution, in a sense, fine, power has gotten closer to the people. People are able to say, this is our governor, you know.
In my view, by the way, it hasn't. But go
Okay.
on.
Right? Yeah. But then again, also you see the flag and you say that is our county flag. In one way or the other, many are saying that finally Kenyans are able, especially from far-flung areas that many are considered to have been marginalized, they can see some trappings of power closer to them. But that notwithstanding then, have we devolved the bad manners that existed before? Because why do we ask that? There is a county in this country where the governor spent almost 2 years in hotels because he did not have a county palace or a county state house for that matter. Spending public money, yet we are asking national government to give us resources to develop these counties. At the end of the day, if you look at that, one would say that is wastage. So did we devolve wastage and corruption? And how do we deal with that, especially in a country where some counties are doing better than the others?
The problem there is not devolution. We just have people in the devolved space who are not doing their job the right way.
Right.
Just like we have very many people at the national level who are not doing their job. But why I told you, I don't believe we have actually implemented devolution. I want to challenge you to pick the financial estimates of the budget of this year. Agriculture is a devolved function.
Yes.
Compare the budget of the Ministry of Agriculture against the combined allocation to counties. Just one ministry. So what is all that money doing in Nairobi if agriculture is devolved? When we said some roads are devolved, what Kera and Kura and Kenya did was to ensure the money remained in Nairobi. They just reclassified the roads. So the roads were promoted from grade E to D, from grade C to B. And that way, again, check the budget of the Ministry of Roads. If most roads are, at least by the spirit of our constitution, devolved, what is that money? How come the Ministry of Roads budget is much bigger than the combined budget allocation of all the counties, and most of the roads are in the peak fisheries, which is an aspect of agriculture? Peak health, you know, we love to bastardize how counties are managing health. But then, again, take the budget that your, again, famous parliament has approved. If health is a devolved function, on what basis would you justify the allocation to the Ministry of Health, which should only run national referral
Facilities,
hospital, perhaps running things to do with epidemics like COVID-19 and all, really minute? And you could go virtually through the whole Schedule 4 of our Constitution, pick the functions that are allocated to the counties, check the corresponding ministry at the national level. So as far as I am concerned, and this is a conversation I've had with many governors who for political reasons are unable to voice it, the truth is we've only devolved perhaps 20% of what Katiba required us to devolve. And this conversation, I mean, water is a devolved function. Check the budget of the Ministry of Water and Irrigation at the national level. Why does it require that allocation compared to the allocation we give counties and whatnot? So there is a way we, you know, they say if you want to hang your dog, you give him a bad name. So what the political class doesn't tell you is that there seems to be some unholy conspiracy amongst them that we won't faithfully implement devolution. But in the meantime, after we frustrate it by denying it the functions and the resources, spin the narrative that it is not working. So I want to suggest to you, even for things that are really bad shape like health, the problem, contrary to popular narratives, is not that these things should not have been devolved. It is that it has been devolved, and the people who have been entrusted with doing it at that level either have not been given the resources, or we elected people entrusted that responsibility with people. I mean, there is no magic. You're not going to tell me that the people in the Ministry of Health are Homo sapiens, but those in the health departments of the counties are Homo habilis or Homo erectus. So that's why they are much less competent, and that's why they, or Neanderthals, that's why they cannot manage health. And that's why I warned you, Dennis, that in this conversation, you ought always to be able to discern, differences between political speech, political rhetoric, and Prof here will tell you the real politics of how, not just this country, but indeed every other country in the world works. And for me, sometimes I ask myself, do we actually know how to run a country? Because all these things we raise, the question is, do we actually understand as Kenyans, not as the president or the governor or whoever, because I said for me the buck stops when the Kenyan is going to vote next year in August. They'll be voting for their governor. In that ballot box, will they be asking which of these candidates has character that resonates with our Article 10 and our Chapter 6? Will that be a calculus in their mind as they tick or cross? When they elect the MP, will it be a consideration in their mind? Yeah, I have 10 candidates to choose from. This one has a history of corruption. This one molests women, so I can't vote for them. This one is a hate monger. He preaches ethnic division, so I cannot. Is that the kind of calculus that will be going on in the mind of the average citizen? And if that is not the type of calculus, even these things we are talking about, degrees, will that voter be asking themselves, surely I cannot, even though the court say you don't need a degree, can I entrust a semi-literate guy? And we've had our fair share of semi-literate governors. Now we are being told we can elect even a semi-literate president. But will that be a factor weighing in the mind of the voter in that small carton cubicle, saying that, running Meru County, where I come from, is a complex affair. It requires a man or woman with right capabilities, intellectual, educational, experiential, and what. Will that really be what is in the mind of they'll be saying, oh, this one is from that clan, this one gave me, was bribing voters and I received 200 shillings from them or whatever amount. So for me, that's why I say we cannot enact a document, then say, because it sounds like very good poetry. That's what my mentor, Professor Gidu Muigai, says sometimes. Because we have this beautiful poem, now I can abdicate my responsibility as a citizen and now start lamenting, oh, the president is not delivering, oh, the governor, oh, the minister is not delivering, oh, the senator is not delivering. This senator didn't drop from Jupiter or from Mars. You are the one who went to that cubicle. And you had many options, but you chose the very worst of the options.
I see, okay. You see, the way Wakili breaks it down, these are the conversations that we should be having on our dinner tables, on a daily night, on every day. These are conversations we should be having, because at the end of the day, as Kenyans, we cede or we donate our power to individuals who should go and represent us, and we hope and believe and trust that they would do the right thing. We're here talking about devolution and how it has performed, yet in one way or the other you find those that have appeared before EACC with corruption cases, what billions of shillings, are the people that we as a people donate our power to and hope that magic would happen, that they would deliver and not take away from the very same pot. How do we as a people then, because one would say then the buck does not stop with the president. The buck stops with Mwananchi when they make that decision. if we have these conversations in terms of more civic education, is Kenya likely to make the right decision that even when the court has said you can elect individuals who do not have degrees, that we can make a conscious decision as a people to say, these are our standards that we've set upon ourselves?
Yes, Dennis. I would say, for example, the biggest problem that we have as a country is lack of accountability, integrity, and also the feeling that mutadu. You see, like for example, and that's exactly what, you know, the people that are governing us, for example, they know that they don't have to be accountable. So impunity, I mean, you get away with murder, literally.
Yeah.
And because what happens to a head of state who does not defend and uphold the Constitution in a sane place, you would be impeached, isn't it? And so on and so forth. But then look at the impeachers. I don't know if that's an English word. Are these impeachers capable of impeaching the president?
They should themselves not be in office in the first place.
Exactly. So when we talk of accountability, and politicization of everything, you know, Schedule 4 is very clear about what are the functions of the national government at national level, what are the functions of county governments at the county level. You find politicization of all these roles, interference. President Kibaki used to say, everybody in his government must keep to their lane, because if you start crisscrossing other people's lanes, you cause an accident. Now, if you look at the national government, is actually doing functions of the, even, you know, small things like opening developments at markets, and all those things. I mean, that's a function of the devolved government. You are sitting there as a governor and you hear there is an entourage coming to open a stadium or to build a stadium. I mean, look at Schedule 4. It's very clear. And so, of course, also, and most of the devolved units are being told. And by the way, devolved units, if they are not a going concern according to the Constitution, they can be wound up like a company. That is the provisions in our Constitution. But then, is there any, you know, there are some that are not a going concern, but obviously they cannot be wound up because of the politics of it. And that's why we are saying, if we really implement the Constitution the way we desired it, the way it is provided for, it's just take Schedule 4 and implement it as is. That amount, the budgetary allocations must correspond to the functions. And when the national government is usurping the functions of the county governments, in essence, they are reallocating the national budget to them, because then they are saying, but we are the ones doing this, so then the money should come to us. The idea of devolved government will only be liberated when the national budget is released from the national, when the national government treasury releases all the funds and the functions can now be taken. Because first, even the money that comes to devolved units, I call them units, and also it comes late. It's always late, it is very small, and also when you discover minerals or things, you know, natural resources at county levels, the national government is running there and saying we have to, they start negotiating at what level, we have a stake, you know, there is a constitution that tells us what to do, and that is the rule book for all of us to be able to follow, which we are celebrating, but who is following? That's why I'm saying, you know, I have so many beefs with a lot of public, you know, state officers, and I know how they can be disciplined to bring professional integrity. Chapter 6 adherence to that. But is it possible? The people that we have given, donated that sovereign power to be able to hold, to punish people who misbehave are the ones that are misbehaving the worst. And the only thing that the citizen, the holders of this sovereign power, can do is what Gen Zs tried to do in the last 2 years, and what we are all going to try to do in 2027. And that's why I'm saying there is only one, the vote is the only weapon that is we are left with. We must be able to reimagine our country again. And to be able to have, you know, when all these nice statements about the rule of law and so on do not have early campaigns, and you are saying that on top of a motor vehicle campaigning, what are you doing? You are campaigning and you're telling other people not. You see, if you are a parent, you cannot drink wine and preach others to drink water. You understand? You must lead by example, and not expect people, you know, people are going to do what you are saying while they can see what you are doing.
I mean, it's a conversation that the country must have. It is Katiba at 16. A lot has been said in terms of even how we got the constitution. Did we just copy and paste that? Our own aspirations as a people is not there. But then notwithstanding, it's the document that we do have. It is the blueprint that we have as a country. Many have said that perhaps even presidential candidates do not need a manifesto because the constitution in itself is a manifesto. It is a conversation that continues as we get to Katiba at 17. What will we be talking about? And even you, as you watch today, as you celebrate the achievements or lack of it thereof of the Katiba, where are we having these discussions and how are we influencing the change that we do deserve? Because remember, as has been said here by an amazing panel, is that anything for you to take home is that the back actually stops with you. Dr. Koki Muli Gringang is, I hope I've said it well. The AC is an electoral governance expert and law lecturer. We also have Professor Macharia Munene, political historian. Asante sana for making it here. And Dr. Muthomi Thiankol, senior counsel. And earlier as well, we had Charles Kanjama, AC and LSK president, just taking us through Katiba at 16. I want to say thank you very much for keeping us company and to the entire team that made this production a success. Asante sana. Katiba at 16. What will we be saying at Katiba at 17? Good night.